be true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, haunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America? Or is this America all a lie?
Of the freedom of speech, somewhere I read. Of the freedom of press, somewhere I read. That the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
How can I pledge allegiance to a country built on lies? Or raise my children to believe they're equal in its eyes? My leaders are assassinated for speaking their mind. So justice never tilts my way. I thought that she was blind. Isn't this America? Or is this America all a lie?
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
I am Denise Tapina-Reed, co-host of At the Round Table with MAMLEO, a Massachusetts Association Minority Law Enforcement Officers Incorporated broadcast, and we greatly appreciate our sponsors. John B. Cruz Construction Company, 1 John Elliott Square, Roxbury, Massachusetts, third generation, family owned, founded.
Just be true to what you said on paper.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio. Here we are live in studio here. It's supposed to be 80 degrees today, gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't sound too excited. I think you probably got the golf clothes in the car.
Well, I have them in the car, but I just can't use them. My wife got me doing so many different things today.
The honey-do list.
Man, the honey-do list is extensive.
I know. I got some grass to get up when I get home.
Oh, my God. I got leaves, grass, a tree box. I got to pull the canopy collapse on the deck. I was like, but honey, it's like 80 degrees. You know what I mean? This is golf weather.
She said, I got good weather for you to work in.
That's right.
So I want to say good morning to my brothers, my co-host. The Rhodes Scholar is in the house. Good morning, Brother Rhodes. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well. Thanks for asking.
And I want to say good morning to Dr. Bradley, our lawn maintenance. So it's called Dr. Scott's.
Grass is going to be healthy.
Who said grass is always greener?
That's right.
On the other side. Good morning, my brother.
Brown on my side.
You don't look too happy there. I want to say good morning, Pastor Hobbs. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you for asking.
We're so glad. We were a little worried about you last week.
Thank you.
We were going to have the SWAT team knock your door down, but we said...
I appreciate your concern.
Yeah, we thought about it, man. Call it some old favors.
Right.
You know, man, we haven't heard from my boy, man. You got to hook us up.
Right.
You're looking
We can get a new door. We can't get a new brother.
Exactly. You know, get your hammer, put on your boots, put on your backpack. It's time to ride, dog.
Exactly. I think I still have a battering ram somewhere. I have to keep it in the car for now. Good morning, sir. How are you? See, that's love, though.
I appreciate it.
That's love. Most people would have been like, they closed or whatever. I'm worried about it.
You're like, what's going on?
While we have you, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, absolutely. Father God, we do bless you. We give you praise for this day, even as we prepare for Resurrection Sunday. We give you praise for your sacrifice, and we ask you just to bless us respectively to remember your sacrifice and to be vessels of your character. So be blessed through and said everything that's said and done in this broadcast in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 We want to thank our sponsor, Cruise Construction, for all your construction needs. Give Cruise Construction a call. Actually, I have to get their number again. I don't know why. I thought I had it here. Also want to thank our sponsor, The Money Store, for all your mortgage needs. Give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. And also want to announce that Boston Praise Radio and TV is having a fundraising and talent search concert at Global Ministries Christian Church, 670 Washington Street. That's next Sunday from April 27, 2024, from 6 p.m. So like I said, we have it's a free event. You know, it's a fundraiser. So if you come, you can make a donation of any amount. And also, if you want to make it prior to that,
Cash App, $, that's BPRTV. That's $BPRTV.
all right. So like I said, we have some tickets here. But like I said, there's a QR code on the back. But like I said, if you show up, I'm sure you're not going to be turned away. But no, you don't need a ticket to get in. And there is no cost to come. But like I said, if you want to help make a donation, keep this radio station alive. Like I said, it's interesting. Last week when we weren't here, people were calling. That's what it would look like if we weren't here every weekend, you know, and every day. So if you're investing, like I said, especially with everything going on in the world today, knowledge is power. You're going to need as much knowledge so you can power up as possible.
Hey, brother, I got Cruise Construction at 617-445-6901.
All right. See, this is why I love having my brothers tomorrow. I appreciate that. And I'm going to get that, make sure that I write that down.
281 Street, Roxbury.
That's right. And they have been a real pillars in the community, not just supporting MAMLEO, but supporting all of our causes in here. One of the few black-owned businesses in this city, in the state, that has been able to prosper.
You know, that building is beautiful, actually. If you go there on Washington Street and look at it, they've done, you know, it's a flagship as far as like to show off their construction skills.
And then they did the one at Clifford and Warren, too.
Okay.
They've got a lot of projects going on. The only thing you were saying is that it's hard for them to get their foot into the downtown.
Yeah, because it's all decided, man.
Yeah,
It's had a
Suffolk,
long-
Demio, and
you know,
what's
these
the other
big-
name? The big names that they have there.
What is
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the round table with MAMLEO. This morning we're going, I guess, the skeleton crew. All right. It's going to be Pastor Hobbs and myself, Rhodes. I'm going to be, I guess, trying to fill some time. And right now, I guess, you know, to get started in the regular broadcast, I'd like to say good morning, everyone. And I'm going to see if I can follow the tradition of getting this song. So welcome to our listeners, Brother Ditka, and Jamal, and, you know, the other people that are always listening. So I'm just going to, and we always got to do the tradition of actually going back to Indiana. Hold on one second. We got, I do apologize for the old, what's that called? The commercial that comes through. Oh, here we go. Here I come. Speaking of which, yeah, we have lots of friends in Indiana, friends from all over the world. Like, we're streaming. So, again, you can give us a call at the number 617-282-0685. And just to give a little thanks to our regular sponsors, again, the Money Store, Cora Holbrook, and again, Cruise Construction. I do not have their phone numbers, but we broadcast every week. So if you're a fan or you follow the show, you do understand that these are our sponsors, and we like to give them a shout out and a thank you for all that they do and keeping us on the air. And we want to thank you for listening and keeping us on the air. Please spread the word and let people know that wherever whatever benefit you get from listening to us, share that information and let people know that they can find this information or this entertainment here. Again, this is the Boston Praise Radio, and you're listening to the Roundtable at MAMLEO. And I'm going to put my phone on silent so that way that this does not interfere. But This is again the Saturday morning, and as I said, we're the skeleton crew today. Dr. Bradley is in taking care of nuptials out of town with the family, and Larry, I will just say, is not MIA, but just not here today. So I'm not sure, but I don't know what they would have on the agenda today, but I'm just gonna, I guess, fill in and kind of just generally talk about what Again, I'm not a former police officer, so I don't have a lot of insight into what's going on with the city department. I just kind of pay attention to, again, how things are run. And one of the things I will say is that one of the things that got me interested is getting involved with the neighborhood youth violence task force. There's a weekly meeting that occurs at the Ella Baker House, and that's how I got involved here with MAMLEO. And one of the things that is that actually sparked my interest was when I don't know if anyone has Netflix, but there's a documentary on it, a 4-part documentary called Trial Number 4. And actually, yes. If you remember Jacqueline, remember a couple of weeks ago we had brought Jacqueline from
Fonseca, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that we talked about was that that false conviction of that young man for that police officer that was shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of that Trial Number 4 on Netflix?
Absolutely. That's with Sean Ellis.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that was very interesting because, again, every time you hear about corruption and stuff, you always think it's other cities, and you never think that, hey, it's going on here in your own backyard.
Absolutely.
And so it was just very interesting to me to actually be able to see, and the lack of coverage from the mainstream media in regards to all the things that are going on.
Doesn't surprise me, actually. I mean, mainstream means commercial, basically.
Yes,
right?
basically, exactly. Actually, if you come to one of the things I learned when I studied media in school was that it's a business, and what's the purpose of a business is to make money. It's not to entertain you. It's not to educate you. It's to make money. So they're looking at the way to maximize their profit. And if it's, as they say, if it bleeds, it leads. So if it's bad news, people are more likely to tune into bad news to find out what's going on than if you're trying to give them good news. If they're good news, they get tired of it. I don't know, they get good news exhausted, so they don't want to hear the good news. But that is definitely one of the reasons why I've gotten involved with MAMLEO and this broadcast. Again, one of the other aspects of it is that, Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Mm-hmm. And as someone that has looked into this, so you have to see the commonality. It's not just one department. It's not just one incident. And just even with what's going on currently with the Karen Reed trial, have you been following that?
Not really. Quite candidly, no. You can't help but see it to some degree, but it's too dominating in the news from my perspective. Because again, we're talking about white police officers. Yeah, no, it is. But again, it's white police, it's white on white crime. Right. It's if it's black on black crime, they would definitely emphasize that. But they don't. The fact that it was white police officers that killed another police officer, and again, internal investigations that the investigation was so botched right from the back. The fact that the state trooper that investigated him lost his job because of that. Because he should have recused himself right away. Because I believe that they used to babysit. He actually knew them personally, and then he still went on and did the investigation. And again, the second trial is going on, but they literally you're talking about a frame-up job. If you've kind of been paying attention, the physical evidence does not match the narrative that they're trying to portray. Okay, from the fact that and also there's so many things that are suspect in regards to how the investigation was handled and what they did. Again, it was the family, a bunch of police officers living at this family. When it was time for them for their phones to be subpoenaed,
all the SIM cards were gone, and they had all new phones. The day before that they were supposed to get their phones turned in, they were like, "Oh yeah, here's this subpoena." And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we all got new cell phones." Like, okay, and the state investigated, and again, they don't want to collaborate what's going on, but if you're connecting the dots, I don't know if you remember the state police, not the state police, but the Stoughton police. At one point in time, there were 3 officers. I can't remember her name. Sarah. I'm sorry. I'll look her up right now. Her name was Sarah. Let me see if I can get it to come up. Sarah Stoughton Police. Sarah Stoughton Police, Massachusetts. I can't remember her right now. Her last name. Yes, she was. I guess like Sandra Birchman. I don't know if you remember the story. Apparently, this young lady was found dead in a hotel, and they claimed it was a suicide. And after an 18-month investigation, they found out that actually she had befriended 3 Stoughton police officers. One of them went to Abington, and one of them got fired. And I can't remember what happened to the third one. But bottom line, they met her at 14, and they all somehow or another had inappropriate relationships with her. And apparently she was pregnant, and then she committed suicide. But the further investigation is that they actually charged the cop with murder because he made it look like a suicide, but the knot that he had tied or whatever was a military knot. And they're like, there's no way this young lady would have known how to make this knot to do. And so, but the state investigator that they're calling into question at this time was the same state investigator that didn't find the phone information. If you did the forensics, like even if you can't find it on the phone, you can find it on the server. Okay. And he did not find the 10,000 texts that they had quote unquote had in between them. It was it was the fact that another investigator came along and said, "Hey, here are all the texts that because the guy had deleted it off his phone." Instead of him actually doing a further investigation of just, "Hey, it's off your phone, but let me go to the server and find out what the record actually is from the phone company." Right. And so this is the same guy that got called in to review the information on Karen Reed's case in their phone, and they're calling into question his credibility because look how he botched the first investigation with this one. But again, the judge is not allowing the in the Karen Reed trial for them to mention the fact that he had botched this one. They just kind of brought into the fold that he said he graduated, he had a bachelor's degree, but he still hasn't gotten his bachelor's degree in the information technology. So, and he works for the state. So there's so many layers and levels of different things that are going on. And again, you get like the whole media fatigue, but it's very interesting to see how the cover up is just kind of there's so many things that you can say that this is not right. And like I said, that's one of the things that I'm looking at is the fact that, they say if they can do this to her and she's a white educated woman, like imagine what they can do to us if we don't, and she has resources to fight. Absolutely. And that's why they're going to a second trial. But like, think about like the original and another thing too, that they had Googled, someone at the house had Googled a couple of hours before he was found, how long does it take for a body to die from exposure? And they, again, like, why would you be researching that if you guys didn't, they got rid of the family dog, and the FBI forensic person testified that the guy had bite marks, and the physical evidence doesn't say he was hit by a car. It says he was beaten up. And again, I don't know how the state is still prosecuting this lady based on all the forensic evidence that proves that it's not her. The what's the thing called, the lens from the back of the car. They had possession of the car, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, they found pieces of the lens where supposedly he got hit, but there was none of it on him. It was one piece on him or what have you. But so it's very interesting to me how like the idea of like police corruption, people think it's like in other states, in southern states, but they're not like privy to what's going on right here in our states of Massachusetts.
Please, I mean, isn't Boston the first?
Police, yeah, it was the first police force in the United States.
Right.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, the corruption and the racism and the classism, that is unfortunately in Massachusetts.
yes, it's embedded.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even covert. I think it's actually overt.
Vert, I would agree. I definitely would agree. Like I even remember Troop E, the state troopers that were from the airport.
I don't.
All right, they disbanded that entire unit. They still patrol the airport. Remember how you used to have that private bridge that used to be only authorized vehicles to go from South Boston
Vaguely.
to now anyone can use that because it used to be a privilege for the state police officers and trucks to go through that road, but now anyone can use that road. Everyone has access to that road. That was part of one of the things that happened when they disbanded that unit. And that was like several of them lost their pension because of the idea that they were falsifying records and getting overtime. And unfortunately, fortunately, it's like I guess the math didn't make sense. They were like, you can't physically have this much overtime for you to, you cannot say that you work 80 or 90 hours in a week and then still be a functioning person and stuff. So it was just, and because it went all the way up, they ended up just disbanding that entire unit. They fired the people, but they closed that station. It's no longer being used as like a place for them to congregate. But the funny thing to me is like when they disbanded the unit, what they did was spread everyone to different barracks and so if they learned anything, as far as I think, it's like, okay, they might have gotten a slap on the wrist, but whatever the bad behavior was, I don't think it got quailed. I think it's just kind of like now it's going to go more underground and then spread to different stations. I don't think the disbanding them and then sending them to different locations, I don't know if that's going to be the best solution to solve the issue of corruption. I think it's like, I don't know. It's like if it spreads, I don't know if it's going to spread a little further than what it is. But that to me, it's just funny that every time we have cases like this, they kind of like stay in the news for a week or what have you and then go away. But this one has actually been staying in the news for a while. But again, I think people might start getting fatigue of it and stuff like that and not realize that this is something that's very, people should be paying attention to this.
Talking about specifically with regard to the Karen Reed?
Well, all the cases that are against, like whenever things like this happen, like the media will take a quick snippet of it. I mean, the Karen Reed thing is because people are interested in people, like she's a school teacher. People are like defending her. Like she even has like a GoFundMe page. People are like set up saying like, there's no way that this lady did this. And the way that the cops are trying to set it up, it was a public outcry. And then, I mean, like the public outcry that we have or whatever, whenever there's anything that happens in our community, like we go out there, we're protesting and then we're organizing and stuff. But, I think we can take a page from their book and it's like organize, get money and start getting lawyers to, investigators to actually find out what's going on. Because that is crazy to me that the state, you're supposed to be investigating crime and if it's time to investigate your own, you either are inept, inadequate, or just, I don't know if they're doing this on purpose, but it's
You don't know? Is that a rhetorical statement? I mean, when you say, it clearly when you talk about, cover-ups and you talk about, that's evident. That's intentional.
Intentional,
right?
yes.
That's, an abuse of power.
Yes.
And it's something that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
Right? This is just, this is not an isolated incident. I think, the fact that it just pronounces for me the reality of just corruption that is just pervasive, right? And it's layered. As you talk about, this is when you talk about resources, people who have money,
Yes.
people who are missing to power because
Yes.
they're police officers, and
Yes.
have relationship with police officers, and all the stuff that I've been hearing that has just been horrible in terms of inappropriate interaction and behavior and abuse of power, and now blatant misuse, cover-ups, and this is stuff that. So, but when you're white and you're a person who has resources, again, this has been consistently in the media. You're saying because people are interested, maybe they're interested, but again, put that in contrast to people of color.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Who don't have the
Resources.
resources. As you said, should we yes, I mean, even when you talked about the Sean Ellis situation or, trial 4,
Yes.
again, he was fortunate to be able to get a high power white lawyer
Yes.
that was not a court-appointed attorney,
yeah.
who took an interest in this,
Yes.
who was competent to be able to fight this
Yeah.
4 times
Yes.
for this man who was
Innocent.
innocent
Yes.
to be ultimately freed. And even I met Sean Ellis, and the truth of the matter is, though he was freed, his life was taken from him.
Absolutely.
Right? So whatever resources they may have given him, you can't give you back a person that
I
time.
know.
Right?
Yes.
So that's a start. So that just shows you right here in Boston that was blatantly police corruption.
Yes.
Right. That tried to put this black person as a scapegoat. Right. We know what happened with the what's the other situation? I forget. The
The steward. Yes.
Another
Oh
situation.
my God. Yes. That is wow. And it was again. We're so lucky that the brother had a conscience. Because if the brother did not go and say, "Hey, listen, it's something's not right with it."
Right. But what did it take for that conscience to manifest? I mean, it really it took some time.
Yes.
I mean, they would in the interim, black people were terrorized.
Yes.
Because of the narrative or the story or the lie that he told.
Yes.
That people were just gonna believe,
and they
be
did.
responsive.
They absolutely believed him. They didn't question it. They didn't kind of like, wait a second, why'd you take this road? How? Wait, what's going on? And it's like I definitely I'm one of those fans of what's those TV shows, those crime documentaries and everything. And then but again, with that particular incident, I remember growing up, and I mean, luckily at that point in time, I lived in Mattapan, but I do know I remember Mission Hill, that area, like how they went through all the housing projects. They were like knocking through doors, just grabbing people out the door.
Sure.
I'm like, wait,
Just dehumanizing, and just I mean. And this gives you license, right? This gives license when you're talking about black situations, right? They just, there's the power and the force that's used against black people. Disproportionately
how they overreact. Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay because of the narrative that, oh God, the story you told, it's horrible.
Oh, no, we're the super predators. Things like that narrative. It's like, oh no, we commit the most crimes. No, we get arrested the most, but we're not the ones committing the most crimes. Like if they put the resources to actually arresting people that committed crime, they'd find out that they're committing more crime out there in the neighborhood. It's just more obvious when you set up the hood with things like the drugs, the guns, you know what I mean? So it's so easy. It's blatant, pretty easy. But and if they have to do an investigation to actually arrest a person, a Caucasian or someone of color, I mean, white person, it's like the person can lawyer up or what have you, but they are not gonna. It's not so quick, and like even like the discrepancy in how they as far as the amount of time or the punishment for crack cocaine versus regular cocaine.
Exactly.
Like crack cocaine, you'd have years in jail, but regular cocaine, okay, like a slap on the wrist.
10 years mandatory minimum was for crack, in contrast to powder cocaine. And it's a status thing.
Yes.
Right? Because doctors and lawyers and athletes and people who
can
that's
afford
a status thing.
Yeah.
But the same substance that was intentionally manufactured and put for a cheap high in the inner city, right? So again, corruption is just it's these are systems, and
we got a caller coming in. Yes, callers, please call in and join the conversation. It's a skeleton crew here at the round table of MAMLEO. So, so right now, I'm going to get a caller in. And good morning and welcome.
Please, good morning. It's Jamal. How y'all doing?
All right, Jamal. It's the Skeleton Crew. It's Rhodes and Pastor Hobbs.
Hey, we got it.
We got you.
Hold it up.
Yes, we're holding it. So,
Yes, indeed. So, the thing about police scandals in general and some of the cases that you mentioned, Sandra Birchmore, the Cameron Reed, and even going back to the Charles Stewart, back what, white people mostly will call the good old days, right? You're talking about the 50s, you're talking about, Father Knows Best, you're talking about when, what do you want to be when you grow up, little Timmy? Well, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a fireman. You know what I mean?
yes.
And it was that old school Americana that many of these folks grew up with. So for the majority of white people, it shocks the sensibility when they find out that the good guys might not be so good. Okay?
Okay.
So in this Karen Reed case, for instance, when this whole cop cover-up is, being exposed more, then as you put the ties to Sandra Birchmore, here's 3 cops sharing a little 14, 15-year-old girl, you know what I mean? And then you have all the other things that we see almost every other day in the newspaper. You see another cop either drunk driving or messing with a kid or caught with kiddie porn or, beating their wife or in combination of all 3. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So at some point, we as black Americans, and this is what has fascinated me about the Karen Reed case, and even you guys may know that I know the guy Turtle Boy.
I didn't know
and
that.
I knew him through when the Monica situation was happening. But when this happened for him, and this changed his life, he's making buku bucks now off of this thing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But for him, he'd always been a, go police guy. What's that little thing that gets stickers? Back the blue and all that type of stuff.
Yep.
Right? So when they started seeing this corruption, it was like your kid finding out there ain't no Santa Claus.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very true. Very, very true. Wow. That's a very good analogy. Yes. Very true.
Yeah. And then too, like most things, you ever buy a car and then all of a sudden you notice how many other cars are on the road just like yours?
Yes.
So these type of things too, when that happens in these type of situations, once a person is tipped off to something that does not fit their normal narrative, right? Now they're going to start seeing it everywhere,
Okay.
right? And this is exactly what has happened to that crowd. Now for us, we know this ain't nothing but a day at the office, right?
Yeah.
And for those of us who've been screaming it all this time, it's kind of like, duh, I told you so. But I give you another little thing to tie into that. Just in the newspaper this morning, I saw, and there's been a couple of articles about this over the past couple of days, but this morning they said, after however many years of George Floyd, we need to be doing more on police reform. And, it's a kick in the head because I'm like, well, y'all never did nothing.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about we need to do more. Ain't that a kick in the head, right? And, of course, they were talking about many of the things that I either created or brought, introduced or spearheaded, what have you. And one of the problems is because police reform has not ever been manifested like the way it really was supposed to. So everything is shadow of what its true intent was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And a lot of that could be due to staffing or budget or, whatever, or to some of the sauce wore off. But the one thing that really gets in my craw is when they say the police reform as a result of George Floyd. Me, as an organizer, first of all, I'm not a reactionary. And as much respect and love to the George Floyd family, unfortunately, he ain't the only one. You dig? So for me, who have been pushing for police reform, let's take a civilian review board. People like me, Yancey, you're talking about over 30 years.
Yes.
So a lot of these other people might have just jumped on the bandwagon after the George Floyd thing, and now they shape it as police reform after George Floyd. But that really diminishes a lot of the work that went on way before, and not, focused around that singular loss.
That is very unfortunate that the fact that every time that there is an impetus to make change, serious change, the pushback that comes, to maintain the status quo is just unbelievable. Like the fact that you do say you want to have citizens board overview of what police officers do, and again, it's overwhelmingly always being shot down. And I'm like, if they're doing the right thing, what's wrong with citizens being able to review what they've done? Because most people are not gonna be on the side of the criminal; they're gonna be on the side of the police officer. So to me, it just shocks me that if they're doing the right thing, if they know that they're not in the wrong, what's wrong with being reviewed? So that to me, it is kind of it slaps or smells a lot like do as we say, and don't do as we do, or kind of thing. We're the adults.
And you've shown a consistent ability to not be able to regulate yourself,
yes,
even though you were the quote-unquote societal regulators.
Yes.
I saw a couple weeks ago in the paper, the Massachusetts State Police was doing checkpoints to crack down on drunk driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, they need to do it at the State Police barracks.
Right.
Before the cruisers pull out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What happened?
So the state police was just doing a regular, when it's around holiday times and stuff like that, they'll set up checkpoints to catch drunk drivers.
Yes.
But I thought it was ironic and somewhat hypocritical, and I'm like, you need to set up a alcohol checkpoint at your own barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's so many cases of state police, here and every local municipality from Boston to Northampton. You know what I mean? Every local municipality with all them things I've mentioned before. Just the last couple of weeks, it's been like 6 or 7 officers caught with just kiddie porn.
Wow.
Let alone the drunk drivings, the domestic violences, and all that. So there is something wrong inside this institution, and those inside who are good don't want these level of shenanigans either.
Yeah.
It makes them all look crazy.
Very true.
So,
facts. It's a double standard, right? And I think what do they say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely, right.
I mean, so there always has to be checks and balances. I mean, people are human.
Yes.
All right, and so no one is above the law.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one guy that apparently right now is the one office.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that just really is not the case either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you when I feel you, and I think that, for me, the confidence, that's why, as a believer, right, is in the righteous judge, right? Because ultimately, we know that human systems are flawed at best.
Yes.
Right? So we don't put our confidence in these systems, right? We put our confidence in trying to be accountable, hold ourselves accountable, hold each other accountable. And the Bible says it this way, that sin is a reproach to any people, but righteousness exalts a nation, right? So the truth of the matter is, really, we need to be really intentional in being able to hold ourselves accountable and each other accountable, because we're prone as human beings to compromise, if you will, backslide, all those other kind of things, yield to our carnal, our lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and pride of life, right? So that's just the fact of human behavior, right? So, the notion that police are, is it immunity, absolute immunity, or something like that?
Well, now because of the current president, he's trying to give them, so it's harder for you to sue them. It's going to be way harder for you to sue.
Well, no, you cannot. In the performance of their duty, that's what qualified immunity is.
Okay.
In the performance of their duty, you would not be able to sue them for damages. Period.
Okay.
Individually, let's say individually, and here's what's crazy too, because with a lot of these cases, think about it. A couple of officers go to a park, they end up shooting a kid, as they did in that case, little 10-year-old boy, right?
Yeah, Tamir Rice.
So now you can't sue that officer individually. So guess what? So the whole city got to hold that one.
Yeah.
So if I was, as a citizen, I would be like, no, I'd rather it the other way. If you screw up individually, you face individual consequences. You ain't getting my taxpaying dollars.
I would agree. And again, the explaining it to people that way, I think, would make sense, where people would agree with you on that sense as well.
And I'll give you another great example too. You remember in Baltimore, I think it was the Freddie Gray case when they gave him "quote unquote" the rough ride in the back of the truck.
Yes.
So after that, the reform came out. They were talking big time about the Baltimore Police Department, which is coincidentally also called WBPG, right? Had cost the city $40 million, and it was a big deal. Like, man, this police department is jacking us up because with all their crazy cases, they've cost us $40 million, and it was a big deal. $40 million. I said, man, in Boston, I could damn near get to that with 2 cases. Okay? You talking about the case of the young white kid, David Woodward, and I met his family and all that. God bless him. But I think they got like $13 million, and then the other case, the young lady at the Red Sox thing, got like 17 or something like that. So 13, 17. That right there is 30.
Yes. Can you actually go elaborate a little bit more on those cases? Because I'm not too
familiar. So the case of the young lady, it was either Victoria or Veronica Snellgrove. She's the one, at the Red Sox, and you know how the college kids get, when they drink a little bit of that jungle juice. Okay. And they were going crazy on yourself. I mean, the Sox won or whatever, and they were climbing a fence and, acting rowdy. The police would tell them, get down, get down, get down, get down. Nobody listened. The cops eventually fired into that crowd.
Wow.
But not with guns, with a pepper spray projectile thing.
Okay.
So in this case, I say it really was an accident because the weapon itself, no one knew that the weapon could kill. But in a freak accident, the pellet happened to hit her right in that spot in the eye, and it went right behind the eye and pierced her brain.
Wow.
So boom, she died. That was a big deal. Family settled out. And then the other one, David Woodman, I believe, what was Daniel? My memory's getting so bad. But certainly Woodman. He was another young college kid, night of, maybe a couple drinks, and it was like a Celtics game. He was not at the Celtics game like at the Garden. He was like at one of the local bars or something like that. Cops came, tried to clear the sidewalk or what have you. For whatever reason, I guess he kind of got detained, and then the next thing he had, I'm making the story real brief here. And then the next thing he had a breathing episode, and he stopped breathing. They were trying to determine if it was a pre-existing condition, if it was this, if it was that, whatever. But they got a big settlement. Another, fun fact to note on both of these cases, if you notice, both of those are also young white people.
Yes, and that's why they got
back to your point of the means, the resources, and also too who seems to get sympathy or who is more likely to get sympathy and or justice in this society.
Yes, no, exactly. If you've got the right complexion to be a victim, and sometimes you have the wrong complexion as a victim, no matter, because that's always how the narrative turns. It's like no matter what, when the police do the shooting, they always bring up the records of the people that the victim and make the victim all of a sudden the bad person. I'm like, that the person's dead. This person killed them, but yet you're trying to make it seemed like this person was the aggressor because of their past crimes. Like, at this point in time, when the police shot them, all their past crime has nothing to do with what's going on right then and there. So it is, to me, that's always just funny how like they can use that narrative or whatever little record that the person had to say, like, I mean, for Tamir Rice, he was a young boy. And again, the police officer that shot Tamir Rice was fired from several other police departments, and he was deemed inept to be a police officer, but yet he was still able to get a job as a police officer. With a simple background check, they would have been able to find, I guess like with the many industries, like again with the police and as an industry, the police industry, they just will like keep shooting, like just like with the priests that molest, they send them to another church. Like with the police, they send them to another precinct or to another department. So
that's why what I introduced, which was police decertification, which is now called post, is important, because what it is, it's like if you're an attorney. If you do something and you scam some elderly person, out of a will, and we find out, you can get disbarred, and you cannot practice law anymore, anywhere.
Yes.
Same thing, a doctor. You do a bad, fake plastic surgery, we catch you, we take your medical license, and you cannot practice medicine nowhere anymore. So with police, it is like that. At the time, Massachusetts was just one of 6 states that did not have it. So I introduced it here. We have it now as another state. So now there's only 4 states in the country that do not have it. And any officer who is fired from a department elsewhere should not be able to practice anywhere else. And if that does not happen, that's either due to a fault in the computer system or some sort of personal wink, wink, nod, nod. This is my brother-in-law's kid or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
But there is a system in place.
Wow. So that's just unbelievable. But no, it should not be. It should not be unbelievable. It should just be, again, a part of. It's just part of, I guess, like you said, human nature. So it is like absolute power corrupts it. And so.
And now let me ask y'all one question about this right here. This is another case. Of course, you heard about the kid that got killed by the bus.
Yes.
Okay. You heard that this bus driver had already hit 2 vehicles beforehand, right? The same day.
No, I did not know.
He had already hit 2 other vehicles in Mattapan and kept it pushing.
The same day.
Same day.
Same day. Yeah, wow. Same day. Minutes before, maybe 20 minutes before.
Wow.
Then, he gets to the stop, drops the kid off, obviously hits the kid, kills the kid. He tries to skeet off from the scene there. I don't know who this person is, but they need a doggone award, because a person out there blocked the bus from leaving with their car. That's how the police got to the scene and got him. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But now here's my question. A couple days later, it says he resigns from the company. Then the company released a statement like, because we were about to terminate him, what have you. And, why is this man not arrested?
Yeah.
You already hit 2 vehicles and fled 2 scenes.
Left the scene.
You hit and killed the boy. You was about to flee here, only stopped by a good citizen, and you haven't been arrested?
I have no idea who is this bus driver.
He's just a regular bus driver. Oh, and his certification wasn't right for the bus driver.
Yes.
Regular brother. I don't want to be stereotypical, but judging from the name, I think he's Haitian. And the kid was Haitian.
Yes.
He's been a driver for the bus for a while, but his paperwork wasn't right at the time of the accident. He knew about it. He was supposed to get that recertification. He didn't. Whatever. But so much is wrong with that. I just don't understand. Like, if I hit 2 parked cars, if I hit 2 parked cars and then kept going, and the police catch me,
hold on,
don't you go to jail?
Yes, because again, it's leaving the scene of an accident. But did he?
Right.
How did when he hit the 2 parked cars? Like, how did the other 2 cars know that they were hit by the bus? Were they witnesses? Did he?
Yeah, other people saw it. Other 911 calls were already coming in. Hey, there's a big yellow bus, number 958. It just hit a car over here. Then another call came in. Hey, I just saw a bus hit, over here. And then also too, as you know, with the city, everywhere. So once they get a location, they're gonna find some footage.
Wow. No, I did not know about. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that particular case. But again, the funeral was last week, and it was definitely
It was God bless
sad.
those people.
It was very sad.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And once again, if I was a family member, I would be screaming from the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
You better put some cuffs on this joker.
Yeah. No, because that absolutely. I'm in complete agreement with you, because that is, to me, that is shocking. Again, I knew about the incident, but I did not realize that it was someone that stopped him from leaving. He was about to use. You hit and kill a child, and you actually, wow.
And he was about to keep
leave,
it moving.
And there were other kids on the bus still?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, as a matter of fact, when the person stopped him before the police get there, he's talking about, get out my way, I have more stops to make.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Like, I have to finish my route. So some people were even questioning his mental, because they were saying he seemed kind of he seemed kind of out of it, like incoherent.
Yes, no.
So, and who knows if he's on drugs or medication or alcohol or whatever, but that's my point.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have found all that out
right then and there.
Right that moment.
Yeah. He should have. They should have done a blood test, DUI, everything right then and there. Yeah, you're right. He should have been arrested, taken to the hospital. So I don't know what happened there. I really don't. To me, that is shocking. Like, I did not know those details.
And allowed to resign and all that. Like, what? I mean, it should have been understood. Like, by the time you would have said, "Hey, I'm resigning," man, we already fired you.
Yeah. Yes, you're done. Like two parked cars right before that. Anyway, wow, and leave. Wow, yeah, no, because again, like it's funny how habitual offenders or people that break the law constantly, like although like they're part of the system, somehow or another they're always kind of given a pass, and someone that does one infraction gets the book thrown at them. And it's just, to me, it is kind of like shocking. I'm like going like, wait, why is this person always out? And this person, this is the first time they've done something. They're spending the rest of their life in jail. It's kind of, to me, that's kind of like, that's another level of corruption to me. It's like going like, if you're protecting and serving the community, why is it that people that are harming the community are always allowed to get back to the community, and people that have honestly made a mistake are punished as if they were habitual offenders? So, especially
with something, I mean, that is so egregious. This is not the only thing to me that could excuse, hitting the parked cars with a kid is if you were having some sort of like, how people sometimes have a heart attack or something.
Something like yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Other than that, you got to go to jail.
Well, all right. Like, I drive Uber and for Lyft and too. Like, you cannot leave the scene of an accident. Like, even if it's a small bump, you got to make a report. If the cops aren't there, you got to exchange information, take pictures and stuff like that. Document that so that way you're legally covered. Like, leaving, like the fact that like he hit the two cars and just kept going. He never stopped to acknowledge that he hit the cars or tried to leave a note, because that's what, like, I didn't. Yeah, thank God for citizens. Like, people report, like, they say see something, say something. Yeah, like, unfortunately that was the way that I guess like he was able to be held responsible. Because
and next time I talk to somebody in the mayor's office, I really do want to see if we can find out who that person is that stopped that bus, because that person really deserves some sort of commendation or something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Especially after you see a bus hit a kid and then you put your car and yourself in harm's way. He could have ran you over.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, it'd be good to find out who he was. I did see on the news, I think that particular person on one of the news coverages saying that he was the one who actually stopped the person. So there is some media coverage of who that particular person was.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be difficult to find out who that person was, and to try to follow through with, as you said, giving him some sort of accommodation or something for that. We need to really encourage
people that do good, give them the love. Exactly. Acknowledge that they've done great. Because again, how they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but it's funny. It's like when bad things are happening, we always focus on it. But when someone does something good, we kind of like, they could brush it over, like, oh, okay. And like I said, with the news media, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's bad news, they'll always put it. But if it's good news, if it's something nice, for some reason, it's like it just gets a little bit of play in, and after that,
it's not just for some reason, as you said. It's it's intentional, right? We're talking about commercial. We're
Yeah.
talking about money,
Yeah.
right? And power that has an agenda. The media
Yes.
does what it does, very intentional.
Very,
right?
very
I mean,
inten-
we're different in Boston Praise that we have these platforms that we can have these neutral places that we can have conversations that are not biased or with one particular bent. But
Yeah.
and that's what I love about Boston Praise is it is. We try to do stuff righteously, right? We're that's why we're FCC licensed, and we're not. We could do a lot of stuff that's illegal, and we would have plenty of resources. We would soar, but no, we'd rather do it righteously, but then address unrighteous situations that happen with just humans across the board.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It is what part of human nature. Like, like I could take myself for example, like the whole idea of like, hey, I'm trying to always lose weight.
Right.
But
you gotta have things in place to hold you accountable to that, because
yeah, exactly.
we by nature will
we will go for that ice cream Happy Meal. It is unfortunate, but yeah. So are we gonna do the regular break at this time, or
yeah, we have 1 minute before station ID.
Okay. Jamal, you gonna hang out and still talk to us?